when you talk about like society having the influence over, you know, kind of what's appropriate, what is allowed in a sense. Um, and I guess bringing it back to the topic of this discussion that we were having, the idea that a lot of the stuff was societally allowed um, has some truth and also has some who took the reins of control and who was in control and who was there to enforce what the law had said. So this kind of goes back to both the coup that we had talked about in Wilmington, as well as the KKK trials that went on later on. I forget which year. I think that was in like the early 1900s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so as well.
But the fact that you can say, you know, society can bring up all of these issues. The people that you talk to can bring up all of these issues. Point to, you know, have factual evidence. This person did that at this time, at this location. It all depends on who's in power to then enforce the law that says that whatever was done shouldn't be done. Ooh, excuse me. Like back then, the idea that you could, in a sense, it was illegal. Murder is illegal, period. You know, those who enforce whether murder is illegal or not were probably the same people who were getting involved in the violent acts against Black people.
Right.
So not necessarily that society was saying they could, but the fact that society says you shouldn't, but there's people who in power who don't care what society says. That's where there's laws on the books that say.
Yeah. So it's kind of like the legal side of it is like not allowed, but you need to have all three of those things. So from an individual responsibility standpoint, they were like, yeah, that's okay. We can do that. They were in power at that time. So from, even though the law on the books, like the legislation said you couldn't do it, two of the three didn't agree. And so that's why it was deemed okay. But I think what I was trying to get at was it depends on what the thing is for what the optimal balance should be. So like for free speech is like government should be least involved and it needs to be individual responsibility in society. And so for something like lynching or killing of a Black person back in that time, you would need way more government influence like you did during Reconstruction when they had the military governors and the federal troops down there and preventing those sort of things from, or at least trying to prevent those sort of things from happening from 1865 to 1877. So I think where I was going to go with that was education. I'm not sure what the optimal balance of that is, because I think, as we've discussed, it's like who decides whether or not you're educated. I think we can probably agree that there needs to be some sort of government influence, but I think probably not a lot. And then where's the rest of that responsibility fall? Well, is it society or is it individual? And I'm not really sure the answer to that, because different people learn in different ways.
Yeah.